Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast and today's world. So, the question of focus is in today's world of globalization, do efforts at Caribbean integration still have any relevance for Caribbean development, or should we all aspire to be citizens of the global village? So, the first thing that we need to address is globalization.
Globalization is a process of international integration arising from the interchange of worldviews, products, ideas, and other aspects such as technology.
I do not believe that we should aspire to be citizens of the global village because each country have their own economical background that does not fit does not fit into what would be required. And I think this is why a lot of countries struggle. We try to compete when we're truly not at the level as other countries.
So let me get this straight. Regionalism is the expression of a common sense of identity, right? And a purpose combined with the creation and implementation of institutions. Because regionalism could help us express our identity and shape collective action within a geographical region. Well, I don't believe that we should, as a region, go towards globalization. Reason being, we don't need to follow the standards countries have set. You know what I mean? Because we could develop, when we come together, we could develop as a region, and we could, for example, trade freely amongst each other, forming a free flow and reduction in cost. Because when we create our goods and we trade them with each other, then that kind of build our currency.
And because of this, I think it's definitely relevant for Caribbean development. And I wouldn't dare encourage someone to be a global village because one, our currency does not match up to what is dominant right now. We are far from it, or a little far from it. And because of that, that could cause us to be at a disadvantage. And as a developing country and so forth, and as an island within the CARICOM, I don't believe it's benefiting for us at this stage in our development.
Although there are several good aspects of globalization I think that's relevant to everyday life, like transportation, new goods, technology. Yeah, technology basically. So advancement in technology, healthcare, and medicine, stuff like that. I think without globalization, we can't really stay inside our little bubble. We still need to learn, go out and learn more, yes, but at the same time, we still need to remember who we are and embrace our identity basically.
Right. The nature of globalization promotes the integration of economies across state borders all around the world. But regionalization is precisely the opposite because it is dividing an area into different segments. Right? With globalization, this allows many companies to trade or on international levels, so it allows free market. But whereas the regionalized system, monopolies are more likely to develop. Right? But however, I must say this, that if we trade internationally, the Caribbean will now face a loss. Right? Because we will be producing goods at a higher cost here in the region, whereas if we trade it with an international company, we're going to be in loss.
A lot of times, what we tend to neglect is the social and economical aspect of globalization regionally. Uh, because of rules that have been set in place and so forth, and the lack of enforcement, we oftentimes give away the opportunity for CARICOM countries to uh, extend and develop as they ought to with each other.
One of the things that I think we need to do as a region, though, is abolish our use of the UK privy council. Because if we are looking at regionalism and we want to as a region form our own identity, why should we compromise our sovereignty to leave that decision of a final court to one which is a part of our former colonial hierarchy? So, in forming our own identity and integrating ourselves as a region, UK Privy Council, which has a lack of understanding of Caribbean dynamics and culture, which defeats the purpose of us forming our own identity, right? And let's think about it. With us having or the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, as our final court of appeal, it gives us as a region a better understanding of local dynamics, and it has less cost to us than us traveling back and forth to the UK, right? And also with the CCJ, it helps us to form our own standards, our own principles to live by. The Caribbean Court Justice would incorporate every nation in the region, hence no nation can feel left out, and that would help to form an identity because with every country in the region come together sharing their own principles about a certain topic, rather than depending on the UK Privy Council, which has different standards and more like it has global standards. Then it will help us to form an identity of
With
our
also
own.
being conscious of the fact that things that we do, such as inviting more developed and long-term standing franchises or businesses into our country, we are putting ourselves at risk at developing in the manner that is culturally benefiting to us. And this also affects the economical aspect because we are being given a particular standard to live by because of what other countries have had with these businesses and because of the development that those countries have faced. uh, it is then pushed on us and we are supposed to reciprocate it. This alone isn't only a contributing factor, but this also puts smaller businesses or developing businesses at risk at where they are challenged with a long-term standing brand or franchise or business,
So
right?
I must say that I agree because we as a Caribbean region, we are not developed enough to have the same laws that the UK have to be involved with the Privy Council, right? Because whereas we as a third world country, we won't have the accommodation to pass all the laws to carry out all the full effects of the punishments that should be cast upon criminals or whomever that breaks the law, right? So as a third world region, we need to set ourselves apart from the Privy Council and stick to the CCJ because that's where our identity lies.
And just to wrap up tonight's segment, we are all here for regional integration. As Point has stated before, it is for the development of the CARICOM nations, and we better understand each other economically, politically, and historically. And this is why we should stand together to develop each other continuously. So we would like to extend a great gratitude to those that took the time out to listen and for those that participated. We greatly appreciate it. I hope that this was an informative segment and we thank you.